President Obama expected to cover a lot of ground in tonight's State of the Union, including immigration, guns, and Afghanistan. But with the nation's economy shrinking in the fourth quarter of last year and the unemployment rate creeping back toward 8%, our next guest says the president's speech should focus on one thing: jobs. Joining us now, Republican Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming. You say the president didn't even mention the word jobs in his inaugural address. You want to hear more about that tonight?
Well, the American people want to hear more about that tonight, John, and thanks for having me. When you ask American people what they're focused on, what they're concerned about, it's jobs, the economy, the debt, and the spending. And yet the president never said the word jobs, never said the word debt in his second inaugural address. He really needs to focus on it tonight. Now, the press is reporting that he is going to pivot to jobs. Well, this is about the 8th time in the last 4 years that the president is now pivoting to jobs.
Well, the president, as you know, is a very eloquent speaker and a good salesman. And when he says we need to make investments in things like infrastructure or education, we need to spend government money to make those investments to build an economy that will last, isn't he talking about jobs?
Well, one of the things when you talk about increased spending, Americans believe as they send their hard-earned taxpayer dollars to Washington that they get very little value for that money, that less than half of what they send is actually, they believe, used efficiently. The president talks about additional education, which is important, but we have all of these recent graduates and people ready to graduate having a very hard time finding jobs in the area for which they trained, John. So there are a couple of things the president could do immediately to help the jobs market. One, of course, is to approve the Keystone XL pipeline to help us also with our energy security. The other is to approve the free trade agreement with Europe. That will help both the United States as well as Europe, and it will help employment.
I don't know a single family that hasn't, over the last few years, sat down, taken a hard look at its budget, and just found some ways to cut back because, you know, as you mentioned, there are a lot of people hurting out there. Why has the federal government not been able to do or not been inclined to do the same thing?
Well, the president's budget in the past that he's submitted, always late, has been dead on arrival, hasn't even gotten any Democrats to vote for it. Harry Reid has not had the Senate majority pass a budget in the last 4 years. The last time the Senate passed a budget was actually before the iPad had been invented. So you talk about how far ago that has been. Families have to balance their budgets. Most states, like my home state of Wyoming, we balance our budget every year. I believe we need a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution. The president continues to oppose those sorts of things.
Well, the president has said that he doesn't think the federal government has a spending problem. 83% of Americans disagree with him, according to our latest Fox News poll. They say that they think government does spend too much money. Why the disconnect?
Well, and Nancy Pelosi said the same thing this weekend on one of the talk shows. Americans know the problem in this country is that we spend too much, not that we're taxed too little. And that's where the Republicans and I are specifically focusing our attention on trying to get the spending under control, which is what American families have been doing, what the nation needs to do right now, John.
I'm sure we'll see you there in the gallery at the State of the Union tonight. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Senator John Barrasso of Wyoming, Republican. Thank you.
Thank you, John.